Lesson 1.4 is about square roots and irrational numbers. Pretty basic definition of a square root is that a square root of a number is a number which, when multiplied by itself, results in the given number. Now that sounds like a lot of linguistic jumbled up mess, but we'll give a few examples and it will make a lot of sense before we're done. So let's take 9 as the, quote, given number. Is there a number that you can multiply by itself to get 9? If you think about a square that has 9 squares in it, just think about what's the length and the width of that square. Of course, it would be 3 by 3. So the square root of 9 would be 3, and this is a symbol that means a square root. It's called a radical. The symbol is a radical. And so because there is a number that results in 9 when you multiply it by itself, it's 3. Or we could say 3 to the second power equals 9. So 9 would be the number. It's actually a perfect square, and we'll talk more about that in the next screen. Perfect squares are numbers that have whole numbers as their square root. So we can generate them just doing 1 squared is 1. So the square root of 1 is 1. 2 to the second power is 4. So 4 is a perfect square. 3 to the second power is 9. So 9 is a perfect square. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. Now these are all the numbers that are the perfect squares. 1's a perfect square, and 4, 9, 16, 25. Let's just skip over to, say, 11 to the second power, 121. So when we try to find the square root of 121, which would be 11, we know that 121 is a perfect square. But what if we try to find the square root of 122? It's not a whole number. So 122 is not a perfect square. So a number that's not a perfect square would be 3. You can use your calculators, your TI-34s, to find the square root of 3, and this is the key sequence. You would say the square root, that's the radical symbol. You'll find it on the left-hand side. I don't have one of those with me right now, but they're clearly on the left-hand side of the calculator row. Hit it in the square root symbol. The radical symbol of 3 is next, and hit equals. And you would see the number 2.9999824 would appear on the screen, and it would actually keep on going, but that's all your screen will hold. We go forever and ever with no predictable or rational pattern. Reasonable, rational is predictable, so it just wouldn't happen. That's why it's called an irrational number. And the square root of any number that's not a perfect square is an irrational number. You can't name it exactly, but just sort of a puzzle for you. Think about, what do you think your calculator would tell you as the answer to the square root of 3 times the square root of 3? You might be able to figure that out without a calculator, but maybe you tell me tomorrow morning. If you see me, let me know. What's the square root of 3 times the square root of 3? And just another quick review of how to use the TI-34s. You find the square root of 6. You should be able to estimate about what that is. You know the square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of 9 is 3, and so the square root of 6 is somewhere in between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. So you would know that it's between 2 and 3. You could try 2.5 times 2.5 or 2.5 times 2.5. You get 25/4, that would be 6 1/4. So 2.5 is a little bit too big. But you would go through the whole sequence again of punching it on your calculator, and you would enter the radical. Then you would enter 6. Then you would enter equals. And as soon as you hit equals, you would see the number come up. And it's going to be about 2.4494874 So a little less than 2.5. And you can estimate these by just figure out how close they are to perfect squares. If you're doing the square root of 10, you know it's just a little bit more than 3 because the square root of 9 is 3, and 10 is a little bit more than 9. So So this is the kind of stuff we'll be doing in lesson 1-4.